You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Incoming transmission.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
That's right. Brexit appears to be collapsing. There's trouble in Saudi Arabia, and the March of the Migrants is upon us. Let's hit it.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
That is right. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. From Phoenix, Arizona, I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Welcome to the show. Today is Sunday, the 14th of October in the year of our Lord 2018. And we have got a lot to unpack. Now, if you didn't have a chance to check it out yesterday, make sure you go on to doaeshow.com or check them out on the Mojo 50. My fellow Lanterniers, the defenders of American exceptionalism, had me over as a guest for second chair, and I was very, very glad to do it. Had a lot of fun working with Stephen Airy, and we put on a hell of a show, I think. It's called Robert Betamax O'Rourke. Make sure to check that out again on lanterns.buzz, Mojo 50, and Talk America Radio. That's doaeshow.com. Now, on to our own little shindig here. As I said, we have a lot to get through, and we have to go to, I believe it's the Bloomberg Quint website, and that's going to require us to take a little jump over the pond. You heard the people. All right. So the Brexit deal now hangs in the balance with the Monday deadline in doubt. Now, this is just published, last update. According to Bloomberg, Brexit talks hang in the balance as negotiators work through the weekend with neither side confident they will clinch a deal in time to meet the self-imposed deadline of Monday. People familiar with both sides of the negotiation who declined to be named, also known here in the States as anonymous sources, the best kind of sources. They said there were obstacles to deal with, but the thorniest issue of all is how to avoid a border emerging on the island of Ireland without erecting one between Northern Ireland and Britain. The European Commission told ambassadors on Friday that it was a make-or-break weekend. Both sides are aiming for progress ahead of a summit on Wednesday that could pave the way for a deal being signed in November. But as Prime Minister Theresa May fights off growing criticism of her negotiating stance at home, two key bits of choreography are yet to be confirmed: a visit by Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab to Brussels on Monday, and a dinner for May and her European counterparts on Wednesday. So it looks like once again Theresa May has foundered on the rocks, and her checkers deal is a non-freaking starter. I would refer you again to check out great UK producers and creators like Sargon of Akkad, who regrettably has stepped away. There are a number of great YouTube channels to check out here that originate in the United Kingdom to give you a first-hand look. But we as Americans have to be watching this story. We have to continue to be vigilant in watching the backs of our British cousins, because this is seeming to pass like a ship in the night that nobody's noticing. Britain is steaming headlong to a hard Brexit, I hope it goes through that way, because a hard Brexit is a clean Brexit. They can slam the door shut behind them. So let's continue to pay attention to this and be ready to provide whatever kind of support that our British brothers and sisters are going to need as they stick to their guns and hold to a true Brexit and break away from the hegemony and domination of the European Union. So there's that. That's our little burst from the Brits. And with that, we're going to head back to somewhat warmer shores here in the United States, at least if you live on the East Coast. Out here in Arizona, we're still getting pelted with rain. Yes, it does sound quite a bit like the end of the world out here, but we'll get through. What we do have to address is trouble on a disputed border of our own. No, we're not talking about Northern Ireland anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, the March of the Migrants is upon us. According to Fox News this past hour, hundreds of Hondurans are head for a U.S. border in mass migration march, as reported. They say hundreds of Honduran migrants are headed for the United States border just days after Vice President Pence sat down with the Central American country's leader, urging him to take a tougher stance on mass migrations. At least 1,300 young children left San Pedro Sula in northern Honduras on Saturday in what some are calling the March of the Migrant, as reported by Reuters. Bartolo Fuentes, the organizer, told the news agency that the group plans to march through Guatemala and into Mexico. From there, participants will request refugee status, which will allow them to stay in the country, or they will apply for a visa to pass through into the United States. This development came after Pence met with the Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, President Jimmy Morales of Guatemala, and Vice President Oscar Ortiz of El Salvador, asking them to step up and help combat illegal immigration in return for help from the U.S. Pence addressed the three leaders on Thursday in Washington at the Conference for Prosperity and Security in Central America, which is an oxy-friggin-moron if I ever heard one. Security and prosperity in Central America will come when and only when the governments of these nations take it upon themselves their incumbent duty to protect their own people from the deprivations of drug lords, crime, organized crime, and the coyotes and such, and actually restore their countries to some semblance of economic security and well-being that makes it so their people don't want to stream north to the American border through the uncertainties of such a monstrous trek on the back of unprotected train cars, heading toward parched deserts where you have just as equal a chance to live and die to get to a country where you are clearly not being welcomed. I mean, I'm not rolling out the red carpet for these folks any more than any other conservative is. I say enter the country legally or don't enter it at all. But yet, 1,300 Guatemalan migrants, and let's call a spade here, 1,300 illegal immigrants are en route to the United States right now, at this hour. According to Reuters, 64% of Honduran households live in poverty. Many of the migrants are fleeing a poor economy and some of the highest crime rates in the world. The Trump administration proposed $460 million in assistance last year, 30% less than what Congress approved in 2016 under President Barack Obama. The secret here is not to pump these countries full of foreign aid, which gets misappropriated and misused by their governments, which are more often than not ridiculously corrupt. What needs to happen here is greater economic cooperation through American companies. We need to spread opportunity to these people. We need to bring them work, good, meaningful work, and also the rule of law needs to come to these countries. That's how we can help. And that's how we prevent issues like these from coming forward. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Monroe Doctrine that says, everything in North, South, and Central America is United States' purview. We're the police of that half of the world. Or the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. If you didn't pay attention in history class, this is new crap for you. Yeah, some of the worst things in the history of the Western Hemisphere were done under the Monroe Doctrine and the Roosevelt corollary, which said that South and Central America aren't well enough developed to properly rule themselves, so we need to go in there and do it for them. And we're going to bring our friends Dole, Chiquita, and every other big plantation owning company that deals with bananas and fruits and things like that, and was looking for rubber and things of that nature. That's not how you do it. How you do it is you create a situation where there's security in these countries and where there's an investor-friendly environment so they can bring in capital and through the power of capitalism, lift up these people out of poverty. Make Guatemala great again. MAGA, indeed. In Honduras, it's Maha. In El Salvador, it's Ma'a or May. Yeah, Nicaragua is Mana. Make Nicaragua great again. Why can't we make all of the countries of the West great again? Why not? Help them make themselves great again. We don't need to go in and take over the government. No. We just need to create a scenario through security cooperation, through teaching them how to police better, teaching them how to control and combat these insurgent forces that they're dealing with, and create a very business-friendly environment. Not that hard. We're treating one side of the problem. We need to treat both sides of the problem. Build a wall, make it tall. Make sure you put men with guns on the wall. Militarize that border, baby. And then, with your other hand, reach out and help these nations, where the United States does have a vested national interest. We have a vested national interest in helping out these nations in South Central America and Mexico and Canada, helping out all of our countries, all of our nearby borders where people will migrate to the United States from. Because if we help them, we help ourselves by reversing a situation that encourages their populaces to come to the United States. So there. You want a foreign policy everybody can get behind? Help them help themselves. Don't do it for them. None of that bullshit a nation building. But help them do it themselves. That's how you're going to nip this migration situation, migrant crisis, in the bud. Not a big deal. Don't know why anybody can't figure this stuff out. So meanwhile, in other border news, because we're in Arizona, that's important to us. This, according to Breitbart, Sinaloa cartel weapons arsenal was seized in Mexican border city. Uh-oh. The Mexican army discovered a weapons arsenal belonging to the Sinaloa cartel in the border city of Nogales, Sonora. On the other side of the border is Nogales, Arizona. Hello. Earlier this week, members of the Mexican Army, the Sedena 45th Military Zone, were patrolling in the border city of Nogales in the Jardines del Bosque neighborhood when they located a pickup truck, which they had previously received information about, parked upon a residential street, according to the report by local media. Upon examining the Toyota Tundra, officials discovered the truck was reportedly stolen from Phoenix, Arizona. Come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Wrong, buddo. Upon peeking inside the cabin of the truck, military personnel observed numerous military-grade rifles and tactical vests. The soldiers carried out a complete search of the truck, found 6 AK-47 rifles, a 12-gauge shotgun, 34 7.62 by 39 millimeter magazines, and 1,170 7.62 by 39 millimeter rounds, 7 ballistic vests, 4 tactical ammo magazine vest carriers, and 50 user quantity packages of... What the hell is a user quantity package of marijuana? They found some weed, okay? Officials seized the contraband, photographed it, presented. 2 of the vests were marked Gente Nueva and GNS, along with a small Mexican flag. Gente Nueva, or GNS, signifies La Gente Nueva de los Salazar, the initials GNS. It's a transnational crime organization and is an enforcement smuggling organization that works for Los Salazar TCO based out of Sonora, Mexico, southern section of the state. Both Gente Nueva and Los Salazar's TCO are elements of the Sinaloa cartel. How sophisticated are the cartels getting now where cartels have friggin' alphabet organizations? We have the FBI, we have the DEA, we have the CIA, the Russians have the FSB, the GRU, the Mexicans have the Federales, and now apparently the Sinaloa cartel has the GNS. When are we going to start treating these cartels like principalities? Which they are. We're dealing with principalities. We're dealing with a nation within a nation, a rogue nation within Mexico. That's what the Sinaloa cartel represents. That's what all of the larger cartels represent. We need to deal with them not as a legitimate national entity, but as a non-state hostile actor under the rules of war. There is no reason we should not be dealing with the Sinaloa and the other cartels the exact same way you would deal with ISIS or you would deal with Al-Qaeda. You go in and you rout them out. But Mexico wouldn't care for that very much. That's where a lot of their public officials get paid. Isn't that a shame? And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, there are parts of Arizona that aren't really safe. La Gente Nueva de los Salazar works as an enforcement ring of the Sinaloa cartel and is heavily involved in drug and human smuggling activities into the state of Arizona. La Gente Nueva is heavily involved in illegal drug trafficking, human smuggling, home invasion, armed robberies, and homicides for the organization in the Phoenix metro area. In 2017, Breitbart, Texas, reported on leaked images in a region of the Tucson Border Patrol section of the Huachuca Mountains. This region is controlled by Los Salazar, and leaked U.S. government surveillance images obtained by Breitbart, Texas show armed Mexican smugglers crossing the U.S.-Mexico border and entering into Arizona. Cartel scouts are deployed into southern Arizona smuggling regions to protect loads of marijuana and illegal immigrants being moved to drop houses and later to destinations throughout the United States. This was written by Robert Arkey, I believe it is, a retired Phoenix police detective. So that coming to us from Breitbart now. Funny how Breitbart is reporting on this, but I go to our own local Gannett Rag, as I like to call it, the Arizona Republic, otherwise known as AZ Central, part of the USA Today network. Subscribe now. Hashtag extremely not a sponsor. Notice how they're not really running with this story. Why? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. When we come back, we're going to get away from Arizona news for just a second, and we're going to talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yep. Sorry, I don't have a choice. This is the type of stupid that needs to be addressed. If you want to go ahead and follow us, we're on www.theholonet.com, theholonet.lanterns.buzz, facebook.com/theholonet, YouTube, search The Holonet, BitChute, iHeartRadio, everywhere great podcasts are found. Also, recently, we are now on Spotify and Google Play Music as well, so find us by searching The Holonet on any one of those great programs. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You're listening to the Holonet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around.
I see people coming together not for divisiveness of party or for dichotomy of thought, but for unity in principle. In the principles that founded our nation, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Today, ladies and gentlemen, those principles are under the sternest attack that we have seen in many generations. It has become a crime in this nation nearly to express a difference in opinion from what is held by your party to be doctrine, from what is purported by the media to be truth. We have an opportunity to reach out to our fellow Americans regardless of their creed and regardless of their political inclinations, and unite as Americans, not as Republicans or as Democrats, as liberals or conservatives, but to unite around the principles that have guided this nation so well. I've covered a lot of stories, but the story that remains untold is the story of America in the 21st century, when we choose to turn back the tide against progressive socialism, when we choose to embrace the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights, when we remember what it is to be Americans. And that principle will not die as long as there's one man, one woman, one child who looks defiantly into the night and says, I am free.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Oh, yes, indeed, that is right. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. From beautiful, rainy western Phoenix, Arizona, I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Thanks for sticking around. Now, we've talked about a couple of different things. We've talked about the March of the Migrants. We've talked about Brexit. We've talked about the Sinaloa cartel getting busted with a crap ton of guns and drugs on the Arizona border. So what do we have to bring up next? Alessandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yes, indeed. Riding high on optimism, according to The Guardian. But can Democrats really deliver at the midterms? David Taylor reporting here in a side room off TGI Fridays off Route 22. Hey, I've been there. I'm from Jersey. The chicken wings are free, but the beer's not. The talk is optimistic, but the recent memories of vivid disappointment are right there on the surface. Now, people are talking about, oh, I love this quote. Hang on, let me get this. I'm still traumatized by 2016. We all are. Oh, yeah, that's classic. Social worker Christine Ribaudo, one of the first to arrive to meet Tom Malinowski, the Democratic candidate trying to unseat Republican Leonard Lance, who's represented New Jersey's 7th congressional district for 10 years. I'm taking nothing for granted this time. Check out the story on here if you get the chance on The Guardian. It gives you a real insight into the mind frame of these Democrats. I'm going to say Democrats with air quotes because we're dealing with the socialist movement here. So the question is asked, is the great Democratic surge about to collapse? And Malinowski says, it's not a naturally occurring weather event. We have to make it happen. It's not something any responsible candidate in a swing district can count on. We have to do it ourselves, one congressional district at a time. And, I think that's how the Democratic Party is going to lose this one, slowly, at one district at a time. Because realistically, when we look at it, the air has gone out of the sails following the Kavanaugh debacle, because they didn't just double down. They doubled down, tripled down, laid down on, and firmly fist bumped the ground, which doesn't even make any sense. But I mean, they went into this as hard and fast as they possibly could. And when an ordinary person, when a reasonable, logical person would say, wait. No, they hit it again and again and again. More accusations, more wild stories, more and more, and we're just going to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing that lie until you make it true. That's a great quote from Catch Me If You Can. Leonardo DiCaprio. Sorry. You just keep pushing that lie until you make it true. Sorry, kids, real life doesn't work that way. You keep pushing a lie, you look like a moron, and your base disintegrates beneath you. Because all the Reagan Democrats, by the way, those still exist. Moderate Democrats, that's still a thing that happens in the world, especially back in my native New Jersey. They're running and hiding from this thing in droves. I mean, there is a peel out from the Democratic Party right now for people who just do not want to attach themselves to this kind of madness. And that's what we're seeing here in Arizona, where now our very own Martha McSally is apparently some 6 points ahead in the polls against challenger Kyrsten Sinema, especially after recent audio came out where Kyrsten Sinema apparently bad-mouthing her home state of Arizona. I'll go to that story real quick. Let me see if I can pull that. I did send it to myself. Didn't I just? I did. I think I did. You see, this is what I do when I see a really great story, is I'll actually message it to myself. It's kind of my own personal storage of all the stories that I want to hit. So let me see here. Okay. This is according to realclearpolitics.com, RCP. Let me pull it up on the big board here. Okay. This is on Real Clear Politics. This came out 2 days ago on Thursday. New recording of Sinema implying Arizona produces crazy, in quotation marks. Republican activists on Thursday released a video of Rep. Kyrsten Sinema, a centrist Democrat. Bollocks. The woman is a screaming psycho-socialist, by the way, running for an Arizona U.S. Senate seat, advising liberal activists how to stop your state from becoming like Arizona. Surreptitious recording dates from 2011 after Arizona Republicans passed SB 1070, the controversial immigration law that led to nationwide boycotts and concern among even some Arizona Republicans that the legislature had moved far to right. These concerns led to a recall of then Senate President Russell Pierce, whom Sinema blamed in her remarks for much of the discord. Let's see, do they actually have the video here? They don't link to it. Dang it. Okay. But here's the quote. The talk contains unusually partisan language from a candidate who is one of the more bipartisan votes in Congress and fashioned herself as a nonpartisan problem solver. In a speech, Sinema of Tucson noted school children are taught the 5 C's that represent in Arizona, which, if memory serves, is citrus, copper, cattle, climate. Oh, I didn't go to school here, so don't be too mean to me. Citrus, cattle, climate. Citrus, cotton, cattle, copper, climate. I got it. I didn't even go to school here. All right. She suggested adding a 6th. Crazy. Quote, she was frustrated that no one in the state legislature was standing up for out-of-state special interests working to take health care away from children, make tuition more expensive, and take job security away from working families, her spokesman Helen Hare said in the statement. Kristen was born here, will always stand up to special interest groups to protect and defend Arizonans. Meanwhile, McSally said calling Arizonans crazy and having a particular disdain for Republicans when she now wants Republicans to vote for her is unbelievable, and Arizonans need to know about it. So, yeah, that might be a little bit of a DNC implosion. Now, you consider the fact that Kyrsten Sinema has also doubled and tripled down on her lambasting of Brett Kavanaugh and how President Trump has handled that. And it all adds up to really a very negative result for Kyrsten Sinema, I think. I believe we're going to come out of this with the Martha McSally election. And as I said, not a huge fan of Martha McSally. You know, Martha was not my pick, but you get to be picky at the primaries. And I would rather see Senator McSally than Senator Sinema. In fact, I am rooting for Sinema's retirement from Arizona politics altogether. It's been nice knowing you, ma'am. So now from that, we go to the BBC in the Middle East. According to Jamal Khashoggi, the UK and the US could boycott the Saudi conference. We'll take one more quick break, and then we'll come back to that story from the BBC. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
All right, you're listening to HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. I am going to drop a little bit of wisdom on you today. We've made some big changes on the holonet.com, and you'll be able to find them right about down here in this region here, below all of our stories. And when you're reading a story on the holonet.com, boom, you've got our related products, which you can pick up. These are conservative tomes. These are the sources of our knowledge when it comes to the conservative movement here in the United States, and some of them are just good fun. You'll see here the Constitution of the State of Arizona. You can pick that up. Biopic on Ted Kennedy, Identity Crisis, the 2016 presidential campaign, Rules for Radicals Defeated, and Understanding the Arizona Constitution. Now, these are ads by Amazon. Full disclosure, when you purchase something off of Amazon.com on the HoloNet, that does go towards supporting our page, supporting our content. So please, make sure you check that out on the HoloNet.com. And now, here's the really cool part, our recommended reading list. Now, I posted this back on Facebook a while back, and here we have all the must-haves. The Constitution of the United States and the Federalist Papers, the Bible Promise Book, New World Translation of the Bible, and holy crap, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Jerry Doyle, Ann Coulter, Bill O'Reilly. There's a lot of Beck on here. I read a lot of his stuff. Dinesh D'Souza, Greg Gutfeld, and of course Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. If you want to pick up any of these recommended books, you can do that on the holonet.com/p/Matt's reading list, or just go to the holonet.com, click recommended reading. Finally, to take on a little tour here to the special offers section on the holonet.com. We have a free trial from Audible. You get 2 free audiobooks. You can start your free month of Amazon Prime Video. You can download free Kindle reading app and get $3 towards your ebooks, or start your free trial, your free 30-day trial of Amazon Prime. That's right, the Holonet is now a member of the Amazon affiliate program. So please, if you want to check out any of those great services, go to holonet.com, click special offers, and get that today. That's on the holonet.com. Now back to the show.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
That's right, we're back. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Thanks for hanging in. Now, as has been reported by many news outlets, we're going to the BBC. Jamal Khashoggi, who was is, hopefully, we hope he's still alive and well, is a journalist and a critic of the Saudi government, vanished on October 2nd after visiting its consulate in Istanbul. The authorities in Istanbul believe he was murdered there by Saudi agents, claims which Riyadh has dismissed as lies. Donald Trump has already said he would punish Saudi Arabia if it was responsible. A number of sponsors and media groups have decided to pull out of this month's investment conference in Riyadh, dubbed Davos in the Desert, as a result over Mr. Khashoggi's fate. Diplomatic sources have now told BBC's James Landale that both the U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and the UK's International Trade Secretary Liam Fox might not attend this event, which is being hosted by Kingdom's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to promote his reform agenda. Spokesman for the UK's International Trade Department said Dr. Fox's diary was not yet finalized for the week of the conference. Joint statement of condemnation. It is confirmed that Mr. Khashoggi, if it is confirmed that Mr. Khashoggi was killed by Saudi agents, is also being discussed by U.S. and European diplomats. So it's looking like we're already beginning to see fallout from this missing journalist in Istanbul. It's not going to be pretty, folks. If it comes about that the Saudis actually did have this man eliminated, this could seriously jeopardize the trade talks that have been engaged in by President Mohammed bin Salman and the Trump administration, and could spell higher oil prices, could spell just further diplomatic disruption and deterioration of the Middle East as a whole. We already know that Saudi Arabia is hugely involved in the proxy war with Iran in Yemen, and this could only worsen an already delicate diplomatic situation there. So we do hope that Jamal Khashoggi is located alive and well before this gets any worse. But that is going to be one of the biggest stories to watch going into this week in the US, the UK, and abroad. So we're going to take a little bit of a weird turn now to China. Because when I was talking on Defenders of American Exceptionalism, we talked about a couple months back, there was a high-level, cabinet-level meeting between several countries and members of the UN about religious freedom. And one of the things I kind of flippantly referred to was locking people away in concentration camps due to their religion. That's what China has been doing under the banner of Sinicization. Sino being a shorthand for Chinese, if you're not aware of that. So Sinicization is basically making Muslims in the Xinjiang region more Chinese. So an official has warned of infiltration of religious extremism amidst the crackdown of the region's largest Muslim population. The Sinicization of religion in China's troubled northwestern region of Xinjiang must be upheld to promote ethnic solidarity and religious harmony, a senior Communist Party official said. China's state-run Xinhua news agency quoted Yo Quan, the head of the United Front Work Department, which oversees the ethnic and religious affairs, while on a visit this week to Xinjiang, home to a large Muslim population known as the Uyghurs. The party's leadership over religious work must be upheld, Yu said, adding that the infiltration of religious extremism must be guarded against. Now, Sinicization refers to non-Chinese societies within China being forced to conform to the Chinese culture, particularly that of the ethnic Han minority. This includes dress code, religion, culture, politics, and language. The Guardian has reported how an estimated 1 million Muslims are being held in brutal re-education camps in Xinjiang. This week, Xinjiang retroactively legitimized the use of these camps. These camps are part of China's, quote, strike hard, end quote, campaign that is alleged to use extrajudicial detentions, surveillance, political indoctrination, or re-education, torture, and abuse in the name of rooting out extremism. This is how seriously, number one, China is taking Muslim extremism and Islamism. So that is a very, very strong response. I will say it is also a very, very wrong response. This is exactly what you do not do to eliminate extremism in a religious population. What they're doing is they are creating martyrs. This is exactly the opposite of what they want to accomplish. You're creating legendary figures among those who resist you. When are people going to learn? Freedom of religion must be upheld, and you deal with extremists quite differently. You deal with them on the basis of their political actions and of their extremist or terroristic actions. China here is in deep, deep trouble, because all China is doing in the Xinjiang region is they are creating a ticking time bomb. And it is going to blow up in their faces, and it is going to be an unfortunate thing to see, because this is going to galvanize the Muslim population around the world against China. You think that Islam as a whole and Islamic extremists are pissed at us? Wait till news of this crap gets out. They're going to be gunning for China. The better option here is to not re-educate people, but to bring them into a cosmopolitan culture. I'm not talking about globalism here. I'm not talking about multinationalism here or multiculturalism, but I am saying that in any free society, there is room for the free and respectful expression of religion, as long as your religion does not give you the orders to dominate others. If anything, the Chinese government should be working for a reformation of the type of Islam that is celebrated and practiced in the Xinjiang region, to ensure that it does not conflict with their national security interests, which is what all nations must do. I mean, look here in the United States. We have our Constitution, which protects and enshrines the free expression of religion. That didn't stop us from knocking over the FLDS, fundamentalist LDS church, did it? When we realized they were breaking the law and marrying little girls to old men. If a church breaks the law, you bring down the portion of the organization that has broken the law. If it's individuals within the organization, you bring down those individuals. If it's a group or a sect within that faith, you bring down that group or that sect. If it is a whole faith in and unto itself, I find that dubious. Because I know for a fact that there exist Muslims. Again, I reference his work a lot, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, also of Arizona, who work for reform, who abjure and dismiss and push away the darker parts of that faith, and who push for reform. We Christians are very lucky. We had our Protestant Reformation, and the Catholic Church had to counter Reformation, which brought our religion to where it is today. The Islamic faith didn't have that. They're still in a place where their doctrine is very, very dark and very scary in a lot of places. It's a religion in need of reform. Putting them in re-education centers, concentration camps as it were, is not the solution. Supporting the elements within that faith that seek to reform it from within and truly make it a religion of peace, and condemning, tearing down, and destroying those parts and sects of that religion that seek to make war. That's the ticket. You embrace the good, you dispel and destroy the evil. That's the only way you can do it, where you will not create martyrs of good men and women. So China, watch your back. It's not going to end well. We go to Breitbart. Vox's abolish SCOTUS. Harvard law professor hoped a liberal court would crush conservatives when Hillary won. Mark Tushnet, an avowed socialist and Harvard Law School professor, made waves Friday when left-wing news site Vox published an interview wherein he agrees with calls for the Supreme Court in its current form to be done away with. So, just so you're keeping up, we've gone from impeach Trump to impeach Kavanaugh, now to abolish the Supreme Court. Have we officially jumped the shark yet? This is what I referred to earlier in the show. Doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on the same failed concept. This is why the blue wave of 2018 will prove to be a mythical figure, like a unicorn or Bigfoot. It's imaginary, illusory. You'll never catch it. And if all things stay the same, if all things stay equal, and we keep seeing the violent repercussions and fists and I believe somebody termed it soy foo roundhouse kicks being thrown by these leftist agitators, all becoming viral moments in our history, we're going to see the complete and total collapse of the Democratic Party rather than the resurgence they're looking for. Another story from the New York Times, because of course it does. The Sunday Review asks, is Trump on a collision course with impeachment? Democrats are largely ducking the topic on the campaign trail, but few people in Washington doubt that it will be on the table if they win the White House. By Peter Baker. President Trump was energized, fresh from the fight to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. He was firing up thousands of supporters. Democrats had treated his nominee. He was complaining about how Democrats had treated his nominee and how they might try to remove Justice Kavanaugh from the bench. They're saying, we'll impeach him. Mr. Trump practically bellowed into the microphone, his voice brimming with incredulity and righteous outrage. Impeach him for what? For what? Besides, Mr. Trump added slyly, I have to go first, right? I'm telling you right now, if the Democrats have their way this year and retake enough seats in the House and Senate, which, by the way, at this point is mathematically impossible. They literally can't win enough seats. It can't be done. Even if they won all the races where they're facing off against a Republican and have a chance of winning it, there's not enough seats for them to successfully impeach the president or a Supreme Court justice. So there's that. But even if they did, even if they got it all together and lined it all up, I earnestly believe we would be looking at the downfall of the United States as a unified nation. We would split straight down the middle. I've said it before and I've said it again. We are in a cold civil war. And the only thing that will bring us back together again is principles. We have to adhere to our principles and we have to allow other opinions to coexist. And the left, it seems, is dedicated to not allowing that to happen. They will not allow another opinion. I mean, we look back to, like I said, the soy foo kick heard around the world. It was just a young woman who was asked a question and who was providing her answer and didn't even get the words all the way out of her mouth before she was assaulted. It's not happening on the right. We're not seeing the violent right-wingers. As much as everybody liked to say Charlottesville was the example, I can't agree with it. You know, that guy wasn't right-wing. If he was there with the Nazis, Nazis by definition are National Socialists. Fascists by definition are not small government. So you're looking to bash the fash. You're swinging at the wrong folks. It's getting very concerning out there. but I fear, we're getting a little too maudlin in the last 4 minutes of the show. So, another thing to keep an eye on that I'm sure is going to hit the news this coming week. Apparently, the Trump administration is weighing new family separation effort at the border. If you read it from the Washington Post, if you read it from Breitbart, it's quite a different headline. You're going to love this. Breitbart reads that President Trump and his administration are working on plans for how to keep families together. I mean, seriously, look at this. And it's rather far down on the page. White House drafts plan to keep migrant families united. 3 stories about the same thing. Okay? Washington Post. The Trump administration weighs new family separation efforts at border. Breitbart. White House drafts plan to keep migrant families unified in detention. Reuters. Trump says family separations deter illegal immigration. The same story. 3 different spins, guys. Welcome to 2018. Post-fact world indeed. So that's going to be your news going into the 3rd week of October in the year of our Lord 2018. According to Reuters, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Saturday, separating migrant families at the border could deter illegal immigration, and he was considering several options to tighten border security. According to Breitbart, progressives are denouncing a draft border protection plan that could keep Central American adult migrants in border detention with their children for 20 days after they cross the border. And the Washington Post. The White House is actively considering plans that could again separate parents and children at the U.S.-Mexico border, hoping to reverse soaring numbers of families attempting to cross illegally into the United States. And meanwhile, 1,300 illegal immigrants are on their way here, according to Fox News, from Guatemala. The migrants are marching on again, hurrah, hurrah. The migrants are marching on again, hurrah, hurrah. The migrants are marching on again. And somebody will call them all Mexicans and we'll go marching. Anyway. Something has to change. We need to build a wall. We need to put men on the wall with orders to hold it. And we need to help our neighbors create situations, create economies that will encourage their people not just to stay, but to return home. Pray for President Trump this week. Pray for the members of his cabinet and the members of our government. Work hard to support those candidates who uphold their principles and who share the principles of our founding. Let's carry the fight in 2018 and bring it home in 2020. Most of all, love each other, care for each other, and support your brothers and sisters, your countrymen and all. From Phoenix, good night. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Good night, everybody.